Welcome to Uprising. I'm Stacey Walker King.
And I'm Natalie Guerrero.
Can we please just take one moment to celebrate the collective exhale we are all experiencing right now? I mean, National Woosah. First of all, Inauguration Day, so brilliant and so brilliantly Black. Madam Vice President Harris pulling up in the purple coat, ready to work. Or maybe it was Amanda Gorman, the 22-year-old sister who said it best in her inaugural poem.
We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us?
All of this feels so new, and yet it feels not new at all. This is what we do. Black people, brown people, Black women come into the room, we assess the entire situation, and then we get to work, all while we work. Today, we're talking to two changemakers in their own right, Mother Akua, a legendary leader of the Black Panther Party, and Dominique Fishback, a revolutionary young actress who is changing the game for Black actresses in Hollywood. She's also the star of the new movie, Judas and the Black Messiah.
This is Uprising. Welcome to Uprising. I'm Stacey Walker King.
And I'm Natalie Guerrero. So last year, we started Uprising as a digital publication in response to the way the world was changing and growing. And now we're here launching the Uprising podcast, discovering the new world alongside all of you.
We talk about the new world as the future that we want to see. In our publication and on this podcast, we highlight the people, the individuals, the builders, the architects of that new world. These people are working towards the future, but this is the future they're living in right now. We're so excited because we're talking to two such people today.
Mother Akua is a revolutionary who led the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party and is also the widow of Chairman Fred Hampton and the mother of Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Beyond that, Mother Akua is a legend in her own right. She is a fighter, she is a leader, and she laid the foundation for Black liberation as we know it. She redefined what Black power can actually look like for all of us.
Dominique Fishback is a beautiful young actress who is just killing it right now. You know her from her roles in The Hate You Give, as well as on the show Random Acts of Flyness. She is also starring in the new movie Judas and the Black Messiah, where she plays the young Mother Akua, or Deborah Johnson, as she was then known. Here's our conversation with both women.
Dominique, first of all, you are just luminescent in this role. I don't even know how else to say it. I just fell in love with you from seeing what, you had me. I want to know, what drew you to this role? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
I hadn't really heard much about the Black Panther Party growing up. I always knew, all we knew was the leather jackets and the berets, but I didn't learn much about them until I got to college, until I did my own research. And I joined the Black Student Union, and I first heard Chairman Fred speak. I was really moved by it. And then I think I heard about Mama Akua and how she had been pregnant when he was assassinated and she covered his body. But that was kind of all that I knew at the time. But the way that God and the universe works is I was reading a book about the women's perspective on the Black Panther Party in the Oakland chapter. And I was just trying to get some understanding because I wanted to write a romance, my own kind of Romeo and Juliet romance with the Black Panther Party being the backdrop. I'm a romantic. And so I was if they're not going to cast me as in a romance, and I'm going to cast myself. So I'm trying to write this thing. And lo and behold, Shaka was working on Judas and the Black Messiah. And I got an email saying that he wanted me to play Mama Akua, Deborah Johnson, in the film, and that Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield will be a part of it. And Daniel will be playing Chairman Fred. So I was already a fan of Daniel. And then Charles King was attached and Ryan Coogler. And I'm are they offering me the role, or do I have to do something? Because I don't want to get too excited. And then they're oh, we like the idea of you playing Deborah Johnson, but not you or something. I met with Shaka in a cafe in Brooklyn and told him that I was a poet. He told me a little bit about himself. And I said, I'm really excited about this. Is the family involved? And he said, we're working on it for legal reasons. We haven't met with them yet, but that is definitely along the lines. And I was like, okay, because that's really important to me. That's kind of how it kicked off. And then we went to Chicago and we met Mama Kua and Chairman Fred Jr. And and so that's kind of how I got started.
After reading so much about her, and it kind of seems like you were so sucked into the world already, kind of like on your own, did you kind of like see yourselves in each other? You were going to play this role, and there is Mother Akua. Like, what was that meeting like for you guys?
For me, I was so nervous, and we had talked to them for around the table for about like 7 hours. And Chairman Fred Jr. was like, I'm going to go around this table. I want to know why every single one of you want to do this movie. I love the question. I was nervous, but I loved the question because I knew that I wanted to be a part of it for reasons bigger than the opportunity to represent this type of love, even though I had been wanting to. And I think like meeting Mama Kua and seeing her kind of like give me her side eye. There was one point where she was like, what if my spirit don't mess with your spirit? And but I knew it was kind of interesting because I felt like maybe Chairman Fred Jr. was like kind of scoping out Daniel in a way, and I felt like Mama Kua was kind of scoping me out. But I knew it was to see what kind of skin I had, and I didn't take it personally. In fact, it felt familiar to me because in a sense, she reminded me of my grandmother. My grandmother was always like, you got to do this and that. You got to I understood where it was coming from. And fun fact, my grandma's name was Deborah. Daniel and I spoke to Mama Kua separately by the end. I gave her a hug and I said, I hope you know my heart. And she said, I know, I just had to give you a bit of a hard time.
My goodness. Mother Akua, I'm curious from your side, you're saying, when Dominique's talking about, you were sizing her up. What were you looking for?
Attitude, no punkism. Able to do the side eye. Not coming in like she knew everything about the Black Panther Party. She's authority because she's read books and computers and this and that. But open to hearing and learning. And I saw that with her. I saw it with Daniel too. I actually saw Daniel's brain turning, as he was taking it all in. And I said, this is good because sometimes people come with an arrogance, even I'm like, I lived this, you know what I'm saying? So they were very open and interested in learning whatever they could about it. The thing that really, really impressed me when Chairman Fred asked somebody, I don't remember who it was, to go to their phone and find the worst neighborhood in Chicago. And they did, and they found an area where a number of people that got shot and killed. This was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And Chairman said, okay, what you come with? And they told him where it was at. Say, we going. And Daniel and Dominique said, they going too. And I said, I'm not going, but you know what I'm saying? After all of that meeting, they were going to the hood. They had never been there before. And Chairman Fred, wherever he goes, he finds the hood. You know what I'm saying? Where the people are. And that really, that's all I needed to hear and see. And like I said, I told her I had to mess with her to see.
I think that listening to you talk, I'm really thinking about you talking about how much they were willing to listen and learn. And I think that so much of the movie, I was sitting in awe of just the lessons that were going on the screen. And even just, a 90-minute film, like you said, like you lived this. Why did you feel like it was important to tell this story now with this group of people? And what made you willing to bring it out into the world from your perspective?
The timing was right. Chairman had met Ryan Coogler at a flea market in California, in Oakland, California, the birthplace of the Black Panther Party. And there was so much going on all over the world, the resistance. This was an opportunity for us to get a clear story out, although there were a number of battles, but there have been so many efforts to tell the story of the Black Panther Party from either the perspective of the police, the pigs, as I still say, or from the perspective of some lawyer or something. But this was really getting into people that were really there and survived this assassination of Chairman Fred and Defense Captain Mark Clark. So that's what made it okay with me. And of course, we had met with our committees and so on and so forth, and they said, okay, this sounds good. So Charles, Ryan, Shaka, it was a good meeting, battles and all.
By the end of the meeting, we were still trying to figure out if the family was going to be involved. But I remember there was a little bit of like talk about, I think, the Jake Winters story. And I remember Shaka saying, if anything is detrimental to the legacy of the Panthers, I'll take out, that's easy, I'll take it out. As he was leaving, when he said that to everyone, I felt comfortable. I said, oh, this is a safe space, the way Charles leans in, the way Ryan leans in, the way that Shaka is saying, if it's detrimental, I will take it out. That made me even more comfortable because I saw the level of respect that he had for the family. And although there's compromise and there's some things you're gonna be happy with, some things you're not, but there was something about him saying that I was like, oh, I'm in good hands, not just as an artist, but as a person who cares about how the family feels about the legacy and making sure that is done in a respectful, loving way.
I love hearing you say that because I think that when you're watching the movie, you can just feel that this is like a treasure. You know, it's something special that we need to protect. There are so many people that, Dominique, you said it. And, you know, if it weren't for like one 10th grade teacher that I had who was making sure that we knew about this history, I wouldn't have known it either. There are going to be so many people that their first real understanding of anything significant about the Panthers will be this film. I just love the care that was taken with that, all of you. So, I commend you, of course, on that. You know, one thing that I think that we think about is, of course, in the times that we're living in right now, it all feels like it's something that's new. But then when we look at the work that, Mother Comrade, that you've done, that the Panthers, that what you're doing, the 10-point program that you were talking about, that was back in the 60s. And some of the things that you implemented, the free food program, I think the way women were seen as, sisters in arms, these are all things that we are still fighting for now. So I'm curious, how does that make you feel that some of the things that you're fighting for, still are continuing on?
I'm very hopeful. In the 60s, we fighting to be free. You know what I'm saying? And I understand revolution is a long, ongoing process. It's not going to happen today, tomorrow, but we have to keep picking away at it and exposing the contradictions, and not continue to be herded again and again into, as Chairman Senior would say, into an excursion in futility. We have a blueprint, if you will, the work of the Black Panther Party to fight and do these things till self-determination becomes a reality. There's an organization still fighting to defend and carry that legacy, the Black Panther Party Cubs. So this is not a stroll down memory lane or going back in the olden days, to see what they did, because conditions have changed. There was a time we would be face to face doing this thing, instead of on a computer, which I still don't know how to operate too good. Things have changed, and there are other ways you have to continue to connect with people. This movie thing is a big thing because people are going to see it, people are going to see it. And it's been a lot of effort. I think this is a really good thing. I think our struggle is a continuous process. It's struggle and it's criticism and self-criticism and how we can do this better, how we can do it. But I respect the leadership of the Black Panther Party Cubs. As a matter of fact, I sit on the advisory board. So I'm not just an individual trying to bring back the 60s. I'm an individual that's working collectively with organization. I chair the December 4th committee, but I fall under the leadership of the Black Panther Party Cubs in what campaigns are taking on it. Not just me. You know what I'm saying? Not me getting a photo shoot, and not me saying the right things, but being informed by organizational structure and an organizational politic is very, very important, because we can go off on our own little tangents, you know what I'm saying, to build ourselves individually. But that's not what we're about.
in this movie, and like there are going to be some people that are going to be listening to this that haven't seen it yet, but they will. So I don't want to give, too much away from it, but I just have to tell you what I'm so just, struck by is your power, your strength throughout this. And, it really is something that made me want to think about, like, I want to know your journey at the conclusion of this movie. And really just, I think about your, a mother to be.
Yes.
If you can just share, kind of you when this ends and a little bit of your journey shortly thereafter.
Of course, with the assassination of Chairman Fred and Defense Captain Mark Clark, and with the arrest, we were arrested. I was charged with attempted murder and aggravated assault, when in fact it was Chairman Fred and Defense Captain Mark Clark that were assassinated. And the people rose to the occasion from all over the world. They were throwing money in the office to get that pregnant girl out of jail. You know what I'm saying? Our son was born 3 weeks later. So that was December 4th. He was born December 29th. Now, I think I'm all tough and everything. So I had told the doctor I want to have a natural birth, right? So I'm hitting, these pains are hitting me, right? And I'm begging them to get, as a matter of fact, I was trying to escape from the hospital because the pain was hitting me so bad. The doctor said, I said, give me something, He said, no, mother, you want natural birth, I was like, oh, So anyway, the sadness and the hope that abstractly that Chairman Fred and Defense Captain Mark Clark weren't assassinated, but the reality was. And here I had the responsibility to raise this child, this baby, who from birth had mannerisms of his father that kind of shook me. I had to, even before he could talk to him about who his father was and who the Black Panther Party was, because it was all of this attack, if you will. See, the Black Panther Party had ideologically won the hearts and minds of the people for the most part. We suffered a military defeat, a military assault that happened all over the country. And some people are familiar with COINTELPRO, some are not, And the Black Panther Party was 90% of the activity of COINTELPRO, a program implemented by then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. So I know I had to keep talking, like I said, even before he spoke or could, I don't know if he could hear, understood. I even let him see the assassination of Chairman Fred. I would talk to him about his father and the programs the Panthers did. And it came to a point while in Gramercy, he would find books and stuff, and we would come home. He would come home with them and discuss it, and we have a whole big discussion. I'm gonna tell some of Chairman Fred's personal business. Like, he would show the movies. This is when he was young, really young, probably before high school. He would be showing videos of like the assassination of Chairman Fred, and people would be laughing. He'd have people over, and they would be laughing at the clothes we wore back then, right? So he would beat them up and make them leave because they were like disrespected. You know what I'm saying? So it was a process. I knew that we were not free as a people, and that's what we were fighting for: freedom, self-determination. And I say jokingly, if I could not let the ghost of Chairman Fred Hampton haunt me when I can sit back and pretend that all's right with the world. But some of the same conditions still existed. So I had a responsibility to continue fighting and had a responsibility to raise this child so that he would know what his father and his mother dedicated their life to from our point of view.
Both of you talk about like legacy and even just pulling back in the Jake Winter story of like the healing and what is the legacy. And when people think about the Black Panthers, like what do they think of? And after seeing the film, I know for me, like Stacey was saying before, like I had very little education about really like the nitty gritty of the incredible work that the Black Panthers are still doing. There is this connectivity with you, Dominique, also like playing this role and learning. What should we be doing now? What is our legacy as a generation? And what should we be focusing on now?
Well, I don't like to use words like should, because
Sure.
I'm not an authority over what people
Sure.
should do. What I will say is each year I give my year a word. 2019 was like my spirit year. I was looking for spirit. And then by the end, after filming, I made 2020 my freedom or my freedom year. Right. And ironically enough, that's when COVID happened and we were all quarantined. And so the idea of freedom wasn't what I thought I was going to have. I thought I was going to be traveling. I thought I was going to be seeing a lot of people and having that idea of freedom. Then I learned in 2020 that freedom is all in the mind. And so what really registered to me, what Mama Akua would say when we were on set with Chairman Fred Jr. would talk about self-determination. And it always resonated with me. By definition, I understood what it meant. It didn't flow through me until 2020 when I understood that freedom was in the mind. And if we're talking about self-determination, that's reimagining the social conditions that we were taught under, right? Like we talk about Mama Akua being the widow of Chairman Fred because it was self-determination. Who's to say that we have to go to the law, the government, to decipher who we are to one another, right? So like I was understanding the world in a different way and unlearning what I grew up learning socially. And so when I think about the generation and the people watching now, I could hope that they would find one, meditation, because meditation clears the mind. And when you meditate, you know what's true inside. You will understand your own truth in an instinctual way. And then self-determination comes after, and that's like a beautiful thing. So I hope that one, people get to see that or understand that in a different way. And two, for the youth, really, I want them to see that we've always had heroes. You know, we're not taught that in school. We weren't taught that people, young Black people, cared so much about us that they would give their lives. Chairman Fred was 21 years old. You know what I mean? Like we don't get to know that. And that Chairman Fred created the Rainbow Coalition. That means he wanted to unify people of all races fighting against oppression, right? So when we look at the marches last year and we see how many people of all different cultural backgrounds and races were coming together for Black Lives Matter, then we understand the legacy of Chairman Fred and how it is flowing into our today, whether we know it or not. So I hope that the film acts as a tool for people to get curious, to then say, because everything is not factual in the movie, right? There's some liberties. And I remember Chairman Fred Jr. and Mama Kua talking about that at the table that we met. But I always saw like, okay, everything can't be factual, but if it can spark somebody to continue to research and learn, then that's good use of the tool and what we're doing.
Dominique, what you're saying about just like freedom coming from the mind is so powerful. And like that meditation of knowing that you're free within and not having to search outwardly, I think that is a giant part of self-determination. Like you guys are talking about, like you are defining yourself, you are fighting for your freedom because it's the thing that's living inside of you. And I guess I would ask the same question of you, Mother Akua. What is your hope for this generation?
Before I get there, let me say, when I go out to the Hampton House, there's political discussions going on. There's struggles going on. There's readings and movies and history going on. It's a safe community place where people can go and get educated. They don't have to rely on a fictional account. Malcolm X used to talk about when you go to a demonstration and you see it on TV, it's a whole nother ballgame. He was like, man, I thought I was at that demo, you know? But it's a different thing, even with print, media, TV, all of that stuff. So you have to be in a place where you can have that discussion because we all come to the table with subjective views on how we think the world should be and how we interpret what's in the world. So when I go out to the Hampton House, I make a joke and say I'm not never coming out here anymore because I'll go out there to stay one day and I'll end up there over a week. With this pandemic, I don't have the interaction with people, particularly Black Panther Party Cubs and other people that come through. And the other thing is, I still go back to Chairman Miles' Red Book. That was like a Bible to us back in the days. And you can read about subjectivity, and everything doesn't apply to this situation because we live in an urban situation. But, he talks about going into the mountains and all of that. That's not happening. You have to adapt. And also the autobiography of Malcolm X. I go back to that. We say Malcolm was the father of the Black Panther Party. Those are things that I use to ground myself. And it's getting people where they are to get what they can do, and participating in this fight for self-determination is control over our own communities in our own interest, not my interest individually. And another quote from Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., he say, what's good for the family or the individual might not be good for the whole community. What's good for the community is good for the family. Everybody benefits. That struggle is still continuing. The Black Panther Party Cubs is carrying the legacy of the Black Panther Party and fighting to defend it. And you have to look and say, why is this organization constantly under attack, even to this day? It's always an effort to destroy, align, and attack. Chairman Fred Sr.'s tombstone is shot up every year. He was assassinated. I mean, you could go and see the bullet holes, you know what I'm saying, in there when you go down there and visit the gravesite. So what is it about this Black Panther Party that has a state still at it? I hope that people go away to want to find out some more information about the Black Panther Party, and I hope they'll come out to the Hampton House and not just come up there to have a Yap Yap Fest, but come out to make a commitment to do something, even if it's working in a garden. It's a garden. They got a Hampton House garden out there. There are activities. They have Triple C's, Children, Community, and Cubs. When the weather's better, they out there and they have food and clothing that they get to people. So that work is still going on. But in this period where you see so many Black people assassinated, murdered by police aggression, by pig aggression, we have a responsibility not to sit idly by and just say, oh, that's a damn shame.
Mother Akua, I just cannot thank you enough for sharing your story, for sharing your family story, for sharing the movement story with us.
You're welcome.
Dominique, thank you for sharing your incredible and immense gift and actually what you have created for us in this beautiful movie, both of you.
Yes.
I believe that this is going to be something that we will be looking at. This is staying in the canon of incredible film that teaches us about ourselves, where we've been and where we need to go. So yes. I cannot thank you enough for that.
All right, thank you.
Mother Akua Njeri is a writer and activist. She is a revolutionary who led the Illinois Black Panther Party and is the widow of Chairman Fred Hampton and the mother of Chairman Fred Hampton Jr.
Dominique Fishback is an actress and a playwright. Her credits include The Hate U Give, Random Acts of Flyness, and more. She also portrays the legendary activist Mama Akua, Deborah Johnson, in the movie Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay, so that was everything right there.
Insane.
I just cannot even believe what we just got. I was so struck by Mother Akua. I will tell you, this is somebody that none of her sharp edges, okay, have been. I love that she is still about the fight. She is coming for y'all. She has never not been. So incredible to hear. And just how she's not only persevered, but she has thrived. I still have chills behind it.
I know. And something, Cece, that she was saying when was like really that thought of self-determination. The idea of self-determination is such a pillar of the Black Panther Party, but the way she was talking about it, and then the way Dominique really like found a way to talk about self-determination and freedom coming from within, and then using that to fight for the community as a whole, that was so revolutionary. These two women and this film are going to absolutely change the game in terms of what we think about when we think about the true legacy of the Black Panther Party.
Absolutely. Because Mother Akua, she was a poet, or is still a poet.
Yes.
And so there was something that was just so like beautiful, I think, in a lot of her turn of phrase. And I just cannot wait for people to, like you said, see the movie, hear this. I will be listening to this conversation multiple times. I will be writing down all the things and I will be referencing it often.
Taking notes.
This was fantastic. Thanks for joining me, Stacy.
And me, Natalie, on this edition of Uprising. We're signing off, but if you want more Uprising, you should sign up for our weekly newsletter at uprising.staymacro.com/subscribe.
This show is brought to you by the good people of Macro. Our executive producer is Christabel Encia Boadi for MyLens Media, and thanks to the team at Cultivate Entertainment.
We know you love us, so you might as well like us too. Follow along for more Uprising content on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're at Stay Macro.
Don't forget to subscribe and rate and review our show whenever you listen. Peace.